Welcome to another fun-filled Friday edition of Second City Sports Real Live and in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago, along with Miss Lakeena McGee, which is she. I am Sydney Brown. Hey, that's me. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter and the IG at CK80. Once again, it's CK80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can follow me at Lakeena McGee on the Twitter and at Lakeena_McGee on the IG.
Make sure you download that Sports Zone Chicago app today. You want to know why? That's why.
Sorry about that.
Sorry about the technical difficulties, folks. Make sure you download that Sports Zone Chicago app today. You want to know why? Because we said so, that's why. And also, too, you can catch any of our 5 live shows throughout the week. You can download them and listen to them back at your own leisure if you happen to miss any of our other live shows throughout the week. So make sure you download that Sports Zone Chicago app today. Also, you can follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms. That's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at Sports Zone Chicago. Once again, find Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms at Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. If you want to catch the audio version of this podcast, Second City Sports, you can do so by subscribing to War on Anchor. And make sure you download the iHeartRadio app as well, because we're available on there as well. We're available on all podcast platforms as well. Just type this in your search engine boxes, WARR on Anchor. And you can follow War Media at WARR Media on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Once again, at War Media on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends. And sorry for the technical difficulties, because we're kind of changing some stuff. So sorry about that. But go ahead, Sid.
Lakeena's a perfect technician around here. We are unapologetically fun, and we have very different opinions. If you have any opinions during our topics, during our 2-hour extravaganza we call a Sports Talk Radio Show, you can do so by going to Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in your questions or comments in the comment section. Lakeena will get them up on the screen for you. But if you decide to troll and or do something stupid or just interfere, just being plain, as you young folks will say, ignorant, I'm giving Lakeena football to give you fools the full bill and beer boot.
Bye-bye.
I love when she says that. Lakeena, let's jump right into it on the Friday edition of Second City Sports. A whole lot of White Sox fans, as we talk Chicago baseball, a whole lot of White Sox fans wanted to give Tony La Russa the boot after yesterday's 11-9 loss to the Los Angeles Dodgers, losing 2 out of 3 to the men in blue from the West Coast. They had a chance to take 2 out of 3 with a 4-0 lead midway through the 5th inning. Dylan Cease was pitching great, and then that 5th inning hit. Tony La Russa on the 1-2 count to Trey Turner decides to walk him. And then Max Muncy made them pay with a 3-run shot to give the Dodgers the lead, in which essentially held up for the Dodgers to steal a game from the Southsiders yesterday. Lakeena, controversy all over the place about Tony La Russa. First, it was the Los Angeles Dodgers television crew with Joe Davis and Eric Karros questioning Tony La Russa's move, not only yesterday, but what happened on Wednesday, putting Larry Garcia at the leadoff position, and Larry Garcia striking out in the 8th inning. Eric Karros, and rightfully so, criticized Garcia with his approach to the plate and not really giving his all, just paraphrasing there. And of course, yesterday they questioned the move about Dylan Cease staying in the game when he already had threw over 100 pitches. I know Steve Stone and Jason Benetti had something to say about the intentional walk to Trey Turner on the NBC Sports Chicago broadcast yesterday. I know the White Sox had a charity event, so not as much media availability to the players after the game outside of Tony La Russa's usual post-game presser. But many White Sox fans expect and hope that La Russa will be given the boot very soon. I don't see that happening today, Lakeena. As we said before, last year they were the hunters. This year they are the hunted. There are 3 games below the 500 mark at 26-29. The Texas Rangers are 4 games under, coming into the South Side tonight for a 3-game weekend series. Lakeena, it is imperative that the White Sox must take 2 out of 3 and perhaps sweep this series to get things back on track, or things will really get ugly in a hurry. As we warned you guys for the last couple of weeks, you cannot use that excuse that it's early anymore. We're into the first week of June already.
Yeah, they really can. And like I said before, I mean, you can't lose the division, but
Mhm.
you can't win it, but you can lose it. And unfortunately for the Sox, look, the Sox had their chances last night, and it's sort of one of those things where you really. That Jake Berger did what he could to try to keep the Sox in it. They were actually on their way to try and perhaps maybe come back and win the game and win the series against the Dodgers, but they couldn't take advantage of any of the sort of the runners on scoring position and such, and the questionable decision by Tony La Russa, which went viral apparently. And it's just like it's unfortunate that this Sox team, you can't really blame it on injuries anymore. You can't really do that. So you have to just it's just sort of disappointing that they had so many chances the Sox did, and now
Mhm.
they're where they are right now. And yeah, you can say, look, okay, yeah, the Guardians went down a couple of notches the last this past week. The Twins have been up and down this week, but you can't really. I know that there are a lot of Sox fans on Twitter. I know there our but we a couple of our buddies who are Sox fans. They were being very they can take it really well with Tony La Russa, but you can blame the injuries.
Mhm.
But you can only do it to a certain point. I mean, lack of production. The pitch has been sort of up and down. Dylan Cease was good for a little bit, but then that fifth inning and everything kind of the wheels started falling off. So it has just been
Mhm.
horrible what happened with the White Sox. And you get the Rangers. The Rangers got some decent young players, but I know that there are a lot of Sox fans that want Tony La Russa's head. I don't. That's not going to happen. I think people should just get used to that. But it's just you really don't know what can you say at this point.
Here's the thing, Lakeena. The White Sox, like we talked about all year long, they've been saved by their starting pitching. Their bullpen until yesterday has been their saving grace throughout these past couple of weeks. I was there at the game on Tuesday. Michael Kopech, excuse me, pitched great. 6 shutout innings with 8 strikeouts, get up only 1 hit. And of course, Jake Berger, who's been swinging a hot stick these last few weeks, he's the only reason why the Sox are respectable, even though they're 3 games out of 500. He's been swinging a hot stick. Jose Abreu, he darn near missed a home run yesterday in the late stages of the game, but he's been swinging a hot stick. Also, to Andrew Vaughn, who they drafted 3 years ago, finally started to come around as a hitter. He's been hot too. So, if you're Tony La Russa, you got to find a way to keep those 3 guys in the lineup every day. I like Gavin Sheets personally. I thought he was the left-handed bat that the Sox need, but keep his you know what out of right field. He's your DH and your occasional first baseman once or twice a week. I do not need him in right field anymore.
No, it really no, you can't. And it's I don't know. And then Josh Harrison, he was actually pretty good, but then he showed some other. You kind of show why that wasn't a thing. So yeah, it's sort of
Mhm.
one of those things where it's gotten to the point where it's just I don't know. I think what more can you say? I know we want to try to get into as much as we can with the Sox, but it's I don't know. Can you really say anything at this point? Can the Sox right the ship? I mean, you're in June now, so you really can't
Mhm.
play that card anymore. So I honestly don't know what to say at this point with the Sox.
Speaking of Josh Harrison, Lakina, he struck out yesterday with the bases loaded. He did the same thing on Tuesday night against the Dodgers as well. He's been a major disappointment. Also, too, with Lance Lynn hopefully coming back at the end of the month is with the same as Eloy Jimenez. He had a slight setback in his rehab stint down in Charlotte as well. When those two come back, there will be moves that will have to be made. Do you DFA Josh Harrison? That's designated for a sign for those of you that are scoring at home. They already done that to Dallas Keuchel last week. I know he got picked up by the Arizona Diamondbacks, but do the same thing to Josh Donaldson? Do you send down Danny Mendick, who, by the way, he's been having clutch hits these last couple of weeks? Tim Anderson hopefully will be
Mhm.
back by the end of the month as well. So there's going to be moves that have to be made by this White Sox team. Is Josh Harrison on his last legs as a member of the White Sox? Will somebody else get cut that we don't see coming? We just don't know. But right now, it's not looking good. But they can right the ship this weekend against the Texas Rangers. You have them for 3 straight games on the South Side at home this weekend. So you are the better team. You have the better depth. You should be able to win this series. I'm putting the pressure on them to sweep it.
And then there's no reason why they shouldn't sweep. I mean, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
the Rangers are okay, but they're not great. And it's sort
Mm-hmm.
of one of those things where you sort of say to yourself, you know what? I don't know. I mean, there's just like so much stuff going on with the White Sox at this point, and it's hard to kind of pinpoint the one person. You can't really blame it on on one thing or You can't blame it all on La Russa. You can't blame it all on everything else. But yeah, it's definitely going to be very interesting to see what happens, because if it does come out that maybe it gets, hopefully maybe they can this weekend they can kind of get back and we're kind of right the
Mhm.
ship. But even at this point, that'd be a bit of a deterrent at this point.
You're listening to Second City Sports, the Friday edition. We're live and in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid Lakeena here with you, talking Chicago baseball with the White Sox. So let's quickly give a mention to the Chicago Cubs. Lakeena, their third game against the Baltimore Orioles was rained out on Wednesday. They'll be made up in August. But the two games they did play against the Baltimore, they got swept. But Christopher Morel continues to impress. Lakeena, Wilson Contreras continues to add to perhaps his trade value. He had another home run in that series against Baltimore. As we told you guys, Baltimore, they're not a good team, but that's not as bad as they were a year ago. So it's not a easy a game on the schedule anymore. They still have some young guys in Cedric Mullins, Trey Mancini, and those guys stepped up to complete that quick 2-game series over the Chicago Cubs.
Yeah, and unfortunately for the Cubs, I mean, sort of like the discrepancies is showing again, and
Mm-hmm.
it's unfortunate, and it's definitely, I don't know what can you say at this point with the Cubs. They got some great young talent, some talent, but they're just not there yet, and unfortunately, especially with the series against Baltimore, like I said, Baltimore is no longer that easy win anymore, so it's it's just, I don't know. I don't really know you can really think much about the Cubs at this point. The Cubs are one of those teams where you're just hoping to kind of they can kind of get back, sort of be respectable. Now they got to play the Yankees, a hot Yankees squad at that,
Mm-hmm.
and it is just there's really nothing you can say at this point if you're the Cubs. So let's get to what is going on in all of baseball. What caught your eye this week?
Oh, the Anaheim Angels, they fired Joe Madden the other day.
Hmm.
They said he was responsible for all their struggles. As we always say in the professional sports business, you cannot fire the players. You cannot fire everybody. But last night, Shohei Ohtani homered in the game that he also started pitched in. The Angels
Hmm.
ended their 14-game losing streak. Now, will this signal for them to have a comeback of a season, regain their early season focus? That's a long ways away, but they were on their way last night. They ended their 14-game win streak by finally beating the Boston Red Sox.
Yeah, I think that should help them a little bit with their confidence there. And
Mhm.
again, we'll see. I mean, I feel like Madden wasn't the issue, but that's just my opinion. But
Mhm.
it's definitely kind of one of those things where you're sort of like, okay, so you have nobody, no excuse now. So I don't know what can be done to sort of get that sense going. But we'll see what happens with the Angels. But look at the Phillies. I mean, look at what the Phillies have
Yeah, that's hard. The
have done.
Brewers.
Yeah, I know it's sort of weird, and they're now undefeated since Red Thompson took over. Who's the first base coach took over as manager? He's the first manager to win his first 6 games since Felipe Alou did it back in '03 with the Giants. So they're hitting, so they're pitching really well, and it's they've won 7 in a row now. Which I mean, I know Joe Girardi, he got fired. I know people were kind of questioning that, so
Mhm.
I like. Oh wow! But look at the Phillies. I mean, look, Bryce Harper's back. He's being productive, and I don't know. Like I said, I don't know. Can they make a move to try to catch the match? Well, the problem is now that the Braves have also won 8 in a row. So,
Mhm.
uh, that they're everyone's getting hot down in the AL East. Even the Marlins have won 3 in a row. So it's that I don't know if anybody can get close to the Mets in that division. But again, we'll have to wait and see.
Also, too, speaking of the New York teams, the Mets had a successful road trip through San Diego and Los. They split against Los Angeles with the Dodgers last weekend. They went through San Diego with no problem as they continue on their West Coast road trip. And their brethren team, the New York Yankees, as we mentioned earlier, they took 2 out of 3 in Minnesota. Garrett Cole didn't have his best stuff last night, giving up 5 home runs, but the offense backed him up big time, beating the Twins in the third game of the series finale last night.
Yeah, I mean, that was definitely something that was definitely needed. And look, I think the Yankees, I know they've kind of been, they didn't have their best week, but they did what they could, and look, they were able to save that series against Minnesota. That was sort of a really like interesting game, 10-7 the final there. So it was, again, it was kind of one of those crazy games in the season, but look, it's pretty cool what's going on there up in the Yankees. Look, like, you could have a bad week, so it happens. Marcus Semien became the first player to have 7 hits and 3 home runs in a single day. Says Joel Morgan. You got to go all the way back to 1973. I feel like it's sort of one of those rarities. Like, it's been almost 40 years, I mean, almost 50 years, I should say, since someone has done that. So the fact that
Yeah.
he was able to do it, 7 hits and 3, including 3 home runs, 3 home runs. I mean, it's rare that someone does that in one game, but 7 hits, and it's sort of, he's been one of, like I said, he'll and they'll see him this weekend. The White Sox will, so they're gonna have, that's gonna be somebody they're gonna have to contend with. He's a ton of shortstop for the Rangers, so the Sox are gonna be seeing him a lot this week. So good luck to them. But yeah, that's a pretty cool accomplishment what he did there.
Yeah. Also, too, sticking with the AL East, the Tampa Bay Rays swept the St. Louis Cardinals in an important 3-game series there at Tropicana Field at Dump. And also, too, the Toronto Blue Jays, they take 2 out of 3 in Kansas City to get back on track against the Royals.
Yeah, that was something that was definitely needed there as well. So it's very interesting that the way they this was set up. So it's that's actually was a pretty interesting. It was a pretty interesting week in baseball. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
strange happenings, record setting and such. The A's have lost 9 in a row now. So it's just crazy how it is. So.
What else is new, right?
That's nothing new, right?
Yeah. And also, too, the San Francisco Giants, they're trying to get back on track. I know they lost yesterday to the Colorado Rockies. The Rockies actually take 2 out of 3 in that series by the Bay. I'm not going to sit here and say Colorado's back, but the Giants, as we told you guys before the season started, they're not going to have the same year as they did last year, winning over 110 games. It's going to be a battle between them, San Diego, and the Dodgers in the NL West.
Yeah.
And it's going to be a struggle for them just to grab a wild card spot.
Yeah, I think you got so many talented teams at this point. So I'm very interested to see what happens there, because I think, look, it's going to come down to probably the last couple of weeks of the season, who can avoid injuries, who can avoid who can be productive. So yeah, they're definitely to the point where, especially this season, especially we're now coming into mid-June now. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens with some of these teams, especially with the trade deadline coming up in a couple of months. So this is going to be where we're going to see what kind of moves they'll be made.
Yeah, like we said before, the last couple of weeks we started to see some of the teams separate themselves from other teams, and we'll see what happens as the month of June rolls on. Now, before we head to the bottom of the hour break, and we'll be joined by our good friend Christine Manika for KXRB, we'll give you the rundown as far as the schedule for this upcoming weekend series from around the Diamond and Major League Baseball. Of course, you have the White Sox hosting the Rangers. It starts tonight. The Arizona Diamondbacks will travel to Philadelphia to take on the Phillies. Of course, the Cubs and the Yankees from Yankee Stadium. Remember, tomorrow's game on Fox at 6:15 p.m. will feature the Cubs and the Yankees. Most of the nation will get to see that game. And, of course, the rest of the country will have the San Francisco Giants and the Los Angeles Dodgers for a big weekend series in the NL West for both teams. Of course, the Brewers will travel to our nation's capital to face the Washington Nationals. The Blue Jays will continue their East Coast road trip. They'll go to the Detroit Tigers. We'll have Oakland at Cleveland. Speaking of that series, that'll be the Sunday game on MLB leadoff on Peacock. Oakland at Cleveland. Whoever watches that one, good luck to you on that. We have Pittsburgh at Atlanta starting tonight. Baltimore at Kansas City. Florida at Houston. The Astros, we forgot to mention them, Lakeena. They lost 2 out of 3 to Seattle this week. So Seattle's going to try to get back on track, your team. Speaking of if you're a White Sox fan, a big 3-game series for the Minnesota Twins. They'll host the Tampa Bay Rays. That starts tonight. Cincinnati at St. Louis. The New York Mets at the Los Angeles Angels. Let's see, the Angels will start a winning streak there. Colorado at San Diego. And Boston Red Sox at the Seattle Mariners. So that's the series going on for this weekend. And I know, Lakeena, before you beat me up, the Apple TV Friday night doubleheader, the games for tonight at 7 o'clock, Tampa Bay and Minnesota. At 8:38 Chicago time, the New York Mets at the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim.
Also, you got the Los Angeles Dodgers against San Francisco. That's going to be the ESPN Plus game at 9:15. And the Fox regional action, you got the Cubs and the Yankees, as well as the Dodgers and the Giants. That's the Fox game of the week. FS1 will have Oakland and Cleveland. So good luck to you guys who will be watching that. And Oakland and Cleveland will get the Peacock treatment as well. So So again, you're gonna be seeing a lot of them this weekend, folks, and also too real quick. Yeah, Boston and Seattle. That's gonna be the ESPN Plus game in Sunday afternoon, and you got the Mets and the Angels 6 o'clock. An early start time for those of you out there in Los Angeles for ESPN. That's a Sunday night baseball treatment.
We have to break, but when we return, she's joining us early, but we have to have her on the program. It's your girl, Christine, the Queen Manika for KXRB. She'll hop on with us to give her latest in sports commentary, entertainment, and more. We'll have more on the flip side as you're listening to the Friday edition of Second City Sports. We're live in living color. I'm Sid. That's Lakeena. You're listening to Sports Zone Chicago.
And we'll
It's a romance sport. What? It's a romance sport. Yeah. It's a romance sport. Yeah, it's a romance sport like that. This one going out.
At a time when the news seems as subjective as the partisan politics dividing this country, independent professional journalism has become the resource people need to get the honest and accurate information for their lives. That's why I created JQuinnReports.com. As a born and raised Chicagoan, I know this city better than anyone. So my investigative stories are all original, and they'll go deeper to expose the truth by using information obtained from public information databases and in-depth interviews with the movers and shakers. My feature stories will introduce you to people and businesses who are changing the world, not just Chicago. My missing person stories will spotlight those who you don't hear about in the mainstream media who are often overlooked. If you want to hear my personal views on things around the world, check out my blog site, which is based off of factual information and my life experiences. There's also past episodes of my weekly sports podcast show, What's Up Cuz, that I host with my real-life cousin, Lance Urban. So if you're looking for all this information and more, check out jcoinreports.com and follow me on Twitter at jcoin.
And welcome back to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago, along with Sydney Brown. I'm Lakeena McGee. Again, sorry for technical difficulties, folks, because we're just, we're learning about all this stuff as we go. It's just some changes are happening, so it's a little bit crazy. But no worries, though. We're going to catch up with our girl, KXRB's Christine Manika. Christine, how are you? How have you been? We haven't seen you in a couple of weeks. What is up?
Yay!
What is up with you guys? I'm doing pretty well. I'm feeling a lot better than what I was a couple of weeks ago, that's for sure.
Oh, we're doing fine. Just fine. How did the surgery go?
It was a success, as successful as it can go anyway.
Good.
Right.
Good.
I know you shared some photos on your feed. So I know I know you're a little sore, but I know it's good to know you're feeling a lot better. So that's always good to hear.
Yeah, sleeping is easier.
Right, exactly. So what do you think about the White Sox? I mean, all the weird stuff that's been happening. Tony La Russa, everybody's looking, asking for his head at this point. So what do you think?
I think White Sox fans tend to forget that being in a slump for this team is nothing new. I think because of how high the expectations exceeded last season, they expect a lot more coming into this season. But even back then, when they were doing really well last year, they still had a little bit of a downturn. So is it totally surprising to me that they're kind of experiencing, this downward spiral? No, but does a lot of the outcomes of the games have something to do with Tony La Russa? Absolutely. I don't think you necessarily should have his head. I just think he's made bad decisions as far as coaching goes.
Yeah, speaking of Tony La Russa, what did you think about his decision yesterday to walk Trey Turner after a 1-2 count? Of course, Max Muncy made the White Sox pay yesterday, and he had a few choice words to say about Mr. La Russa as he crossed home plate yesterday.
Gosh, I think I got more comic relief out of his press conference afterwards answering that question. He's like, this is why baseball exists. It's because you can have those controversial moments. You can have those debates. But at the same time, he hinted, but that's why I'm in this position and you're not, because I know what I'm doing. So he's downplaying basically what his decision was. When he laid it out for everyone and his reasoning, did it make sense? Yeah, but should he have had a little bit more confidence in his team? Absolutely. I think that's what it comes down to, too.
Absolutely. And do you think, can the Sox right the ship at this point? I think we're starting to see that, we're almost in mid-June. I mean, this is sort of the time when the Sox need to start heating up. I mean, not only do you have to worry about the Twins, but now the Guardians have been playing very well. So can they get back on track, the Sox?
Eventually, I think that they can get back on track. And I think it's good to point out, too, this team, in the midst of their success last season, they were still going through COVID difficulties. This player had COVID. The baseball season didn't really start necessarily on time during the time that they were having their really good run in 2020. Then the lockout was going on. So this team in the last couple of years alone has had a lot of adversity, and they've somehow managed to overcome it all. I don't think that's any different with this team, considering that it's still pretty similar to what it was a few years ago.
Speaking of a few players that have been swinging hot sticks the last couple of weeks with White Sox, what do you think about Jake Burger? His star is really on the rise.
Oh, he's hilarious. They're already, Twitter is winning at this game with Jack Burger. I think he's the Jake Burger. I think he's the next rising star for the White Sox. We were talking about last year how it was Gavin Sheets, and Gavin Sheets is still doing really well for the team. But I think now the Burger's gotten people excited about the team again, especially when you've had unprecedented suspensions with players like Tim Anderson having to sit out a little bit, again with some injuries, and then COVID in some cases as well. So I think he's a good new energy for the team.
Yeah, I totally agree. Hopefully he can keep it up, because he's kind of the reason, or maybe not the main reason, but one of the reasons why the Sox are still afloat. And I feel like this is a point where I'll contend with some Sox fans. What about Josh Harrison? I know Sid and I talked about this last week and even on Monday. He was actually pretty productive in that series against the Dodgers, but should the Sox DFA him like they did with Keuchel, or do you think he can still sort of have a fit in this team?
I think he definitely has a fit in his team. And, it's like what you were saying. He's kind of been holding the team together a little bit. And that's the question on everyone's mind, whether he can keep that momentum going and to keep holding this team together. Again, I think with those new players, they're still trying to figure out that chemistry. They're still trying to figure out La Russa's mind, so to speak, and what his ways of thinking are. So I believe that he could also be a key player down the road for the team.
And going back to La Russa, Christine, in your mind, I know part of it has been due to injuries, but does it get on your nerves that he has a different lineup for every day? Of course, the Dodgers TV broadcast criticized him for putting Leary Garcia in the leadoff spot on Wednesday, and you have certain guys like you mentioned, Gavin Sheets, who's really struggled as of late, and he struck out to end the game yesterday. As I said, he belongs as a DH and occasional first baseman, but don't put him in right field anymore. Adam Engel, that position is his to stay. AJ Pollock has been swinging a hot stick as well. He had a big RBI yesterday. But does it bother you, barring injuries, that La Russa continues to send out an inconsistent lineup every day? Every day is not a Sunday lineup.
No, it's not. I'm actually pulling up a message that my grandfather sent me not too long ago. It's Tony La Russa's record when he was the manager in '83. First 20 games, 8-12. First 25 games, 12-13. First 50 games, 12-27. Final record, 99-63. Final standing, they were in first place last year. And what's happened so far since then? 2022 now. It's the exact same record, pretty much. We don't know what the final standing is yet, but at that point, a couple of days ago on Wednesday, actually, he had the exact same record than what he did in 83. So I don't know if he's using tactics from the 80s or if he's still in that old mindset of this is how it was done back then when I was playing baseball. So I'm going to bring the game back to where it was then. It is frustrating. It doesn't help the players with the inconsistency either of thinking, am I going to play today? Am I not going to play today? Should I be ready for some action or should I just be ready to get some action on the bench? So it just kind of depends on Lil Russa's line of thinking. Again, what I've been mentioning, and you got to remember too, he's an older coach, and that's why I think the organization hasn't said anything about it, just because of the stat that I just told you, his record from 83 to what it is right now in 2022. So it definitely stirs up the pot for White Sox fans, and it does have a lot more questions than answers.
So what's caught your eyes so far? We're about a couple months into the baseball season as a whole, besides, the Sox. What has caught your eye so far? Player, team, managerial firings, apparently.
Gosh, the Yankees, for one, I knew pretty much within the first couple of games, I said, okay, there's something different about the Yankees this year. They're actually having a really good season, and I can expect a lot of things out of them. And I mean, look at Rizzo. He's lighting it up out there for them. It's something that he probably hasn't done since his prime time with the Cubs, So I've been very impressed with the Yankees and their performance. When it comes to players, Dylan Cease. What did I tell you at the beginning of the season, Sid? That he's going to be the pitcher to watch out for, especially for the White Sox now, almost getting, what did we say, 15 strikeouts within the first couple of weeks or months of the season. So I'm really impressed with his performance and how.
Unfortunately, the team can't give him any wins, and yesterday was a prime example.
That's the other frustrating part with it. The pitchers are doing their job, but it's the hit crew that needs to step up their game a little bit more. But surprising, Joe Madden, I didn't think that the Angels were going to take it that far. But when you lose 12, 13 games in a row, I guess that's a call for action in some cases. So that was pretty surprising to see.
Yeah, I just wanted to back up your point, Christine, before we move on. That also, too, for the Yankees, and me and Lakeena mentioned this in our last half hour. Garrett Cole, their star pitcher, he didn't have his best stuff last night, but giving up 5 home runs. But the Yankees' offense is what carried the day as they took 2 out of 3 at Minnesota. But Aaron Judge, who's looking for new paper, fresh cash, as the kids would say, and Giancarlo Stanton. Both those guys have been relatively healthy this year. That hasn't always been the case with those two over the past few years. So that's another main reason why the Yankees are on top right now. Look out for Tampa Bay. They swept the St. Louis Cardinals this week at home. So, and the Toronto Blue Jays are back on track. So it's going to be a tight race in the AL East. You may have the 3 wild card spots coming out of the AL East. And so that's why it's imperative for the White Sox to win the AL Central. Will Minnesota take off? I don't think so, but they're not going to go anywhere either. And you brought up the record from 83 when Tony La Russa managed that team. Remember, that team won 20 games, won that division by 20 games. I don't see that happening this year, but it depends on when and if White Sox really get on that hot streak. And so at this point, the way they're playing right now, it may take 85, 86 games to win that division.
It might. It just might. We got all season for it. We got all season.
Absolutely. So it'll be very interesting to see what happens here now. Now that I got you on, Christine, the golf world. I know your boyfriend has been trying to qualify for the U.S. Open, which will be in Brookline in Massachusetts this year, just outside Boston, and it starts next week. But there seems to be other things that are going on there too. The Live Tour, which is sort of a Saudi-backed rival, well, not really rival, but golf tour that is they're having their first tournament as we speak, and some of the top players, Dustin Johnson has resigned from the PGA Tour. now going to be playing the Live Tour full time, LIV. That's what it's called. Also, former U.S. Open champ Graham McDowell, among others, Henry Stinson, Ian Poulter, Ian Poulter, I should say, and among some others. Also Phil Mickelson too. That's sort of like the big name. We'll get to that him in a second. Now Tiger and a few others always said, have said that he's not going to go. He's now a billionaire, ladies and gentlemen. So also there. But what do you think about all this? Because I think it's going to get ugly because the PGA Tour announced that players who play in the Live Tour will get suspended and such. Just a lot of crazy things happening right now in golf, Christine.
Yeah, I think if you're someone that doesn't follow golf, you're probably thinking, wait a minute, what the heck is going on here? Or what does this mean? Why are people getting so wound up about it? And, if you look at world history, it's no secret why this whole this new tournament league is controversial. And this is how I like to explain it to people. I think mainly the reason why a lot of these professionals are getting out of the PGA, it could be a variety of reasons. One, say you're a guy like Dustin Johnson, Fowler, and Phil Mickelson. You've had a strong career with the PGA. You've made a lot of money, not from the PGA, but from the endorsements that you've had. And now you're at the point of your career saying, do I want to stay in a rut or do I want to have a little change with a whole lot of money attached to it? Money that the PGA would probably never give out to a player, at least right now anyway. And because they've had an established career, probably a safe bank account, down in Phil Mickelson's case, but with the other golfers probably have a steady bank account, they probably thought, okay, now this is the time to think about my family. That's what Dustin Johnson said in the press conference a few days ago. This decision was based off what was best for his family. When you're married to Wayne Gretzky's daughter, I'm sure that has a hefty price tag attached to it. So therefore, that's a family decision. Now, here's the other situation why some golfers could be a part of this league. Say you're 22, 23 years old. You're just starting out in the PGA. And so far, you're not really doing that well. Maybe you're making $10,000 during a tournament, $10,000 in a tournament. Yep. And then the Live tournament comes up to you. The Saudi Arabia's come up to you and say, hey, even though you're not performing to your best potential, we're going to offer you a $2 million, 2-year contract. And every tournament that you play, you're guaranteed $1 million.
Right.
So 7 tournaments in a year, that's $7 million. Times that by 2, that's $14 million, even though you're not having the best career. That's a whole lot of money for someone that really isn't performing to their potential. So that is the decision that those players are making, saying, okay, I'm going to get established. I'm going to make some money. But here's the question that comes after that. Say your 2-year contract is up and they don't re-sign you. Well, now you come over to the PGA, and that begs the question, is the PGA going to be willing to take you on? Are they going to suspend you, even though at that point you're 25, 26 years old? So again, it depends on the situation and where you want your career to go. If you want to stay with the PGA and if you want to play with some of the best golfers in the world, you're going to reject whatever the Live League is offering you. But if you only want to do this for a period of time and have a comfortable living with a potential future, whether it's still in professional golf in some way, or you just want to have a normal life, then sign up for the Live tournament. It's a very touch and go subject. I know with the players yesterday in the Canada Open, you have vocal guys like Rory McIlroy and Justin Thomas that said, I don't disrespect the guys who are doing this Live tournament. They're making the decision whatever best for them and their family. And then you got someone like Scotty Scheffler, great guy, but he's like, look, I'm just here to play golf. I don't really care what's going on over there. I'm just here to play with some of the best golfers in the world. So it's a very, I was talking with my boyfriend, because at first I was even confused about the whole thing. Cause I'm like, wait a minute, why? What is actually going on here? And I brought up a very interesting point to him too. Notice back in January when Phil Mickelson came out with this league and his backing of it, so many people in the media and sports media, fans gave him so much backlash for what he was saying. It basically was the top story for a while. Then all of a sudden, a few weeks ago, you hear Dustin Johnson come out with his support, and nobody seems to really say anything about it to him. So whether it's because of Phil Mickelson's history or it's because what's transpiring into, okay, this is actually happening now, I don't know. I don't know that answer. But what I do know is that it's going to be interesting. Golf is changing, whether it's for the better, whether it's for maybe a broader fan base of the game. I don't know. I don't know that. But whatever the case is, Chris and I were both saying that we didn't think that the PGA was going to suspend these players, because if enough people rally behind it, they're going to be like, okay, hold on, before we make any rash decisions, let's just analyze here and see what we can do. Now that they came up saying, okay, these players are suspended, this may put a dent into some potential players' plans if they were thinking about joining the LIV tournament. I know Bryson DeChambeau, he was one of those guys that came out with Phil Mickelson when he said what he had to say about the league. And he kind of backed off for a period of time when he saw the backlash that Mickelson was getting. Now he was injured for a while. Ever since the Masters, he was injured for a period of time. He's finally healthy. He's back touring. And then he even has shared, again, his support of the league. Again, it sounds like from his perspective, he thinks that players in the PGA should be treated with more respect, and that should show in their paycheck, essentially. Now, he hasn't said yet if he's going to be part of this LIV tournament. He's just expressed his support for the league and the guys that are doing it. Out of the 17 guys that were listed on the suspended list, his name was not on there yet. So it's mainly because I think he's still trying to debate whether or not what he wants to do. Like I said, he's just coming back from an injury, and he's just kind of getting back into the swing of things, no pun intended. So it's just a matter of time, I think, to see if he's going to make a decision on whether or not joining a league. And I also said, this could potentially open up a door to some more relations outside of the game too. So there's a lot of outlets to what's happening right now with that. So you can only assume, again, why players are doing it for their reasons. But that's my take on it. I'm not totally knowledgeable. I'm knowledgeable enough to know what's going on. I'm not knowledgeable enough to say whether I support this or not, because we don't know the end game to this. We don't know what the motive is behind this league or anything like that. So I'm going to refrain from saying an opinion, because I just don't feel comfortable with having an opinion at this point when it's so new.
Last moment or two with our homegirl, Christine Manika from KXRB, right here on Second City Sports Live and in Living Color, the Friday edition, right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid, Lakeena here with you. Lakeena, not Lakeena. You too, Lakeena, but Christine, let's get your take about the NBA Finals. Game 4 is tonight between the Golden State Warriors and the Boston Celtics from TD Bank North Garden. Tip-off is at 8 o'clock Chicago time on ABC. The Celtics lead at best of 7 series, 2-1. Of course, Boston got back in the series on Wednesday with a 116-100 victory over Golden State. Where do you see this series going?
Gosh, the Celtics were really handing it to the Golden State Warriors on Wednesday. My mom is in town, so we caught a little bit of that game on Wednesday, and we're just like, holy cow, like this is just like no contest right now. The Warriors, they had to fight to even make it kind of a close game towards the end of it.
Right.
So I think this is kind of funny. One of my coworkers, his name is Jeff. He's like, I do not want to see another Celtics championship. I can't stand it. What do you have against the Celtics? He's like, I just can't see another Celtics victory. I just can't. So I think, especially with it still being at the Garden, I really think that Boston's going to have another solid win here tonight, unless someone kicked the Warriors in the butt a little bit after that game. I think the Celtics, they're really strong right now.
Going to be very interesting though, because I feel like it's going to be one of those sort of cases where who's going to get the hot hand, whether it's shooting and such. So just crazy. But apparently, we'll switch gears and talk some NFL. Apparently, and we'll talk more about this later after our interview with Swirsk, but apparently the Rams, salary cap, what's that? They signed both their top players, Aaron Donald
picks.
and I'll say, Aaron Donald and Cooper Kupp to new deals. Sid, like I said, we'll delve more into this after, but I wanted to get Christine's thoughts on it because it's just crazy how, what, picks, whatever, salary cap, whatever. What do you think about what the Rams are doing?
Can I just say first, before I get to the Rams, I am very happy for Akeem Hicks. I didn't get to talk to you guys about this, but I'm very happy for Akeem Hicks that he is getting a chance with the Buccaneers. He deserves it. He's had a lot of unfortunate luck with the Bears and injuries and whatnot. I still think that he's a strong player. So kudos to him for securing that deal with the Buccaneers. I expect him to be a very strong asset for that line and for Tom Brady. So congrats to Akeem Hicks. That's an awesome opportunity for him. When it comes to, Donald and Cooper Kupp, it was actually kind of like, wait a minute, they didn't sign him on already. You got the triple crown in Kupp, and then you have Donald, who's just good. But then again, he was kind of on the fence, one of those players that was on the fence about retiring. So I honestly was shocked when I heard, oh yeah, they just signed him. What do you mean you just signed him? I was kind of taken back by it.
All right, Christine, before we let you go, what is the broadcasting venue that you're doing right now? I know you had to join us a little bit earlier today, but we wanted to say congratulations on that. For those folks that don't know, tell us about it.
It is a new semi-pro amateur women's soccer league. It's the WPSL League, Women's Professional Soccer League. And it's the first women's team here in Sioux Falls. So they just had their first inaugural home game last week. They won, 2 minutes left. It was going to be a draw. And then I believe it was a Wetterstrom on our team that got that goal at the last minute to beat Mankato, excuse me. So that was pretty exciting and stuff. But yeah, I'm the game announcer for them. And, I should have told you this, guys, earlier, but the game was actually postponed tonight because of COVID cases on the opposing team. They have too many COVID cases going around. So that game is actually rescheduled. I'm assuming it's going to be within the next week or so. But yeah, I got that news last night about it. I was kind of bummed about it. But at the same time, it's another chance for them to work on whatever else they need to work on when it comes to their offense and finding a better rhythm with their team. It's a brand new team. These girls have only played with each other for, I want to say, 2 going on 3 weeks now collectively as a full team. So it's all about finding that rhythm, finding what works and what doesn't. And their coach, his name is Dale Weiler. He is a former professional soccer player himself. He played up in Minnesota for a period of time. And a long time ago, a couple of years ago, he was saying how he's wanted to bring a women's team to Sioux Falls. He's wanted to have that opportunity to coach them. And these 2 women, Emily Thomas and Melissa Nelson, they said last year, why not do it now? Well, let's do it. We both have daughters in soccer. Let's bring this program to fruition. And so far it's been a great success. We had over 600 fans at the game last week. So it just shows the need and the want for this organization and for this support for the team. So that was very awesome to see, and it's great to be a part of it.
All right. So, well, look, I wish you had told us. Maybe you could hang out with us for the rest of the show.
If you want me to hang out with you for a little bit, I can. I feel horrible. I just and then my partner, he's gone on vacation this week at work, so I've been holding down the fort. It's been a week. Let me tell you, it's been a week coming off surgery. It's high gear.
Sid?
Yeah, so let's bring Christine back at the bottom of the hour after our interview with Chuck Swirsky, who's coming up next right here on Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. Christine, we said we just have a little bit more to discuss with you, and we'll have some fun as usual. So thank you for joining us early. We'll bring it back within the next half hour. How about that?
That sounds good, guys.
Thanks.
All right.
See you in a bit.
All right.
All right, so we're going to gear up for our interview with the man himself, Bulls radio announcer Chuck Swirsky. We're going to talk his career. Of course, we'll talk some NBA Finals and all the crazy rumors that are happening with the Bulls so far in the offseason. Sydney Brown, Lakeena McGee, Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago, and we'll talk to you guys in a bit.
Welcome back to hour number 2 of Second City Sports, the Friday edition. We're live and in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago, along with Miss Lakeena McGee, who is she. I am Sydney Brown. Hey, that's me. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, that's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can follow me at Keena McGee on the Twitter and at Keena_McGee on the IG. I guess what's the update on Swirsky?
Yeah, he's going to join us in a couple of minutes here. So Chuck Swirsky, the Bulls radio voice for 670 The Score, he does a great job with Bill Winnington. He's going to hop on with us in the next few minutes. But before then, we have less than an hour left of this extravaganza we call it Sports Talk Radio Show. If you have any questions or comments during our last hour of the show, you can go to Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page and on Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in questions or comments in the comments section. Lakeena will get them up on the screen for you. While we wait for Chuck to come on, Lakeena, let's get our thoughts about the NBA Finals. Of course, the Boston Celtics have a 2-1 series lead. I wanted to get your thoughts, Lakeena, about Wednesday's Game 3 victory for Boston. Were you surprised or was it what you expected? Because during the NBA Countdown preview show on ABC, everybody on the panel except for Stephen A. picked picked the Boston Celtics to win. As I told you, it's going to be a split in Boston. Of course, I'm giving my hand away who's going to win tonight, but it wasn't surprising what I saw from the Boston Celtics. Even though Golden State had that great third quarter, Boston did enough in the fourth quarter to hold on for a victory.
Yeah, it's sort of one of those things where you thought that once the Warriors got hot, especially in that third quarter, you thought, oh, okay, yeah, it's gonna be a repeat of what we saw in Game 1, but that turned out not to be the case. To Boston's credit, they settled down, they were able to kind of get things going and such. Guys hit big shots. I know Steph got banged up too, so you got to wonder that played a little bit of a part as well. But I think for me, I think tonight, look, this is gonna be some of those this is gonna be one of those series where it's going to be up and down. One team is going to get hot, from the field. One team isn't. I know Draymond, he only scored 2 points. He fouled out early. Scott Foster, did Scott Foster things, if you will. And
don't tell that to Chris Paul.
Right. But I think that played a part as well. He needs to step up. I mean, there are guys that need to step up more. I know Jordan Poole only had 10 points, but he could do more. Gary Payton II, I know he's getting, kind of getting back into a rhythm, but he needs to do more. Otto Porter Jr., we saw him in Game 1. He's kind of disappeared since then. Kelvin Looney, only had 6 points. He needs to step up a little bit more like we saw during the Western Conference Final. So it's just so many parameters and so much, things and other stuff. So I don't know, what is, it's sort of one of those things where I just don't think, look, no one's going to run away in this series. It just isn't going to happen. These two teams are way too good. You saw, Jaylen Brown had 27 points. Also, Jason Tatum had 26 points and such. And this is one of those things where it's kind of like, I don't know. I mean, it's sort of like I said, you really just can't make any predictions. Also, Marcus Smart had 24 points as well. This is I think the third time, I guess, that a trio, or a second time that a trio has scored at least 20 points and 5 rebounds and 5 assists in the finals game. You go all the way back to 84 with Kareem, Magic, and Michael Cooper in their series against the Celtics. Now they ended up losing that series against the Celtics. The Lakers did. So, I'm gonna. You take that for what you will, but I think it's going to be one of those crazy things. Hopefully, we can talk about this when we get Mr. Swirsky on a little bit. But I feel like this is sort of one of those series where it's going to be back and forth. It's going to be like the ping pong. You're going to have one team's going to have the advantage. I think the Warriors are going to win tonight. I kind of gave away what my prediction is, but I think this is sort of we'll see if Steph. We'll see how that foot injury is. It doesn't seem serious. There's no ligament damage or anything like that, but. I'm hoping that he can be 100% because I think Clay is still trying to get into a rhythm again and such. Draymond's got to step up. He even said he played like crap. I won't say the other word that he used in front of his people. Were going all that up, been out of shape when he talked about it in front of his son DJ. But I'm sure he's probably heard that. But it's not a big deal, folks. But so we'll see what happens tonight. But I think this is going to be one of those series where, like I said, it's really going to depend on who can have the advantages and such, because look, I know people are already making one prediction over the other, but I think you can't really make any predictions at this point.
And for the Golden State Warriors, you mentioned Steph Curry, he had 31 points, but he got into early foul trouble, and that's what set him back. And Klay Thompson, we talked about this on our last show on Monday, Lakeena, that he needs to have a big game. He kind of struggled in Game 2. He struggled in the first 2 games of this final series. He had a couple of big shots in Game 2, but it wasn't a Klay Thompson we expected to see. Now, we got that performance on Wednesday, but he had to carry them, especially in that first half, because of Steph Curry's early foul troubles. And Draymond Green was doing Draymond Green. He just got caught with his pants down. No pun intended. And, of course, we all talked about how that crowd was a factor at the TD Bank North Garden the other night. Is going to be a bigger factor tonight with their team being up 2-1 in the series. So you mentioned Jordan Poole. He has to do more. I know he had 10 points, but it seems like the Warriors just couldn't get it going. Now, on the flip side for Boston, all their stars got in foul trouble in Game 2. You didn't say that on Wednesday. So Jason Tatum carried that momentum that he had in Game 2 over to Game 3. Marcus Smart scored more than 2 points. Jaylen Brown was very active on both ends. And their bench, Grant Williams chimed in with 10 points. And Derek White, he didn't have the Game 1 performance, but he chipped in with 7 important points. And so Boston got contributions all down their roster. And minus that third quarter, the Boston Celtics kept up that energy, even though they led by 14 points at the half. As I said before, minus that third quarter, you saw that the Boston Celtics were able to regroup themselves and come away with the victory. They got it done on the defensive end. It's been that calling card all year, and we'll see what happens tonight for Game 4. You're listening.
Helps
Right.
remind me myself. Yeah, it's going to depend on who can, like I said, who can hit their shots, who can step up more on defense. So look, there's going to be like I said, I don't think the Souls are going to run away with this. I just don't think you see it happening. It's going to be one of those instances where I feel like this is going to be like, you know what? Look, we'll see if more of those guys can step up. I think all the role players that's going to be the key. We said it before, and it's going to be the case for the rest of the series.
Yeah, you're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago, the Friday edition. We're live in 11 color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid, Lakeena here with you. We are waiting Chuck Swirsky, the radio voice for the Chicago Bulls. He'll join us here coming up. Lakeena, I want to get your thoughts on tonight's contest. What are your keys for tonight's games for both teams?
Like I said, I think Draymond has to step up. And I like I said before, I think he needs. I know he said that he's going to step up, but let's see if he can. We'll see if Clay can kind of be the resemblance of the Clay that we saw. We saw him have 25 points, I should say. We'll see how Steph is. We know he's not 100%. And look at all the role players. Jordan Poole, Gary Payton II, Otto Porter Jr., Iggy. I mean, all those guys need to step up. For the Warriors, because that core with Draymond and Steph and Clay, I mean, they're all a little banged up, and they need to step up. And as far as the Celtics are concerned, we'll see if Brown and Tatum and Smart can score 20 points. But they need more contributions from the guys off the bench. Grant Williams need to step up. Robert Williams need to step up. Al Horford, he had 11 points. But we'll see the Al Porter, fountain of youth tonight, and some of the other role players and the bench players for Boston need to step up. So it's really going to depend on who steps up. And we've been saying it through all series long, and I think we've seen it so far with some of the other ones, but it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, for me, quickly, the key for tonight's game for Boston continue to bring that intensities, especially on the defensive end, and that's how they got most of their buckets thus far. Yes, they had hot shooting in Game 1, but to create their offense, it goes through their defense. And for the Warriors, they have to rebound and get back to playing their team defense that they've been known for all year long. We have our guest, Lakeena, and he's one of the great NBA broadcasters around. He's a great Chicago broadcaster, a true gentleman in our business. Let's please welcome him for his debut right here on Second City Sports. He is the one, the only Mr. Chuck Swirsky. Chuck, welcome to our show.
Hey, Sydney and Lakeena, how are you guys doing?
Doing great. How about yourself?
We're happy to join us.
Well, thank you. It's a pleasure. It's an honor. Thank you very much.
No problem. For those of you that are listening back on our replay at War on Anger, Chuck is, of course, wearing his great Bulls jersey with the great Nike swoosh on it. We love it. We love it. We love it. We were talking about the NBA Finals, Chuck. Of course, Game 4 is tonight between the Celtics and the Warriors at 8 o'clock on ABC. Of course, Boston has a 2-1 series edge so far. Give us your take about the NBA Finals thus far. Is it what you expected, or have you been surprised in some ways so far early in the series?
Well, again, 3 games. We have a lot of basketball to be played. Obviously, for Golden State, they need tonight's game. The way the Celtics are so resilient, they're 7-0 after losing a game. So that tells me, and I'm not really one for stats, but that's a big stat, because that tells me they get refocused. And they get refocused in a hurry, Sydney. But you know what? When I look at this series, and Lakeena, you probably have a pulse on this series as well as anyone. I mean, the way Brown and Tatum have come together. And I'm going to share a story with you if I have just a moment, Sydney.
Go ahead.
So the Bulls are in Boston early in the season. And Lakeena, you can probably Google this game. Boston was up by like 19 points going into the fourth quarter. And all of a sudden, that lead evaporated. These players in the NBA are so good that even a 19-point lead can disappear in a snap of fingers. So all of a sudden, the Bulls stage an unbelievable comeback. They storm from behind, win the game, and afterwards, Marcus Smart went off in the locker room telling reporters, like, we got to play together. We got too many ISOs, the whole bit. And I'm paraphrasing now, but I think that was his message to reporters. And Marcus Smart is not only a quote unquote smart man, but he also is the leader of that ball club without any question. He brings so many intangibles. I love the guy. I love his heart. I love his spirit. I love his grit, his toughness. And so he knew exactly what he was doing. Now, sometimes players can do this, but it goes south. In other words, it's a deterrent and it does just the opposite of what you plan to do. Now, I'm not saying that this was preconceived, because it wasn't. I think Marcus Smart was speaking in the moment. But in that moment, it sent a major message. And they turned this around in the second half of the season, and Boston looked like a completely different ball club. I think they grew up. I think the maturation of Robert Williams, the acquisition of Derek White, the coaching of Emeka Udoka really has come into play here, because it's been seamless as an assistant to a head coach. And he probably would disagree with that, because there are bumps in the road. This is a tough profession as a head coach in the NBA, but things have come together for Boston. And that's why Golden State needs to be very, very careful with ball possessions, but especially how they're going to handle pick and rolls on the offense and defense, and how they're going to combat Boston's stellar D.
What do you think the Warriors need to do to get back in this and tie it tonight? Because I think the role players need to step up more. Draymond, Jordan Poole, former Bull, Otto Porter Jr. Who do you think needs to step up tonight for the Warriors?
Well, I think collectively, you know what, Lakeena, I think defensively, they've got to step it up. And I mean, again, if Golden State wins tonight, then it's a best of three. And, you know, those two games are in San Francisco. So we have to put things in perspective. But again, this is a turning point game, in my opinion, for both ball clubs. And when I look at Golden State, you know, Draymond is an interesting guy because I do think, you know, he's surrounded by great players, and he has elevated himself from a defensive standpoint to a team guy that he has probably put himself in discussion one day when his career is over for the Hall of Fame. Because I do believe that the pieces of this puzzle in the whole, he is a key piece. I mean, I can see Green going in the Hall of Fame. I can see Steph Curry going in the Hall of Fame. Klay Thompson right now is probably borderline. He needs to have some more good seasons. But this entire scope of Golden State and the run they're on has been remarkable. So I think Golden State as a unit, they need to play some really good D tonight. Obviously, everyone knows in this league, it's a make or miss league. You got to make shots.
Chuck Swirsky, Bulls radio voices, joining us right here on the Friday edition of Second City Sports. We're live and in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid Lakeena here with you, Chuck. Let's go to the Chicago Bulls. Of course, it was a disappointing ending to the season, losing to the Milwaukee Bucks in the first round in 5 games, but they did bring basketball back to Chicago with 46 regular season wins. But before the season started, Chuck, be honest, did you expect the Bulls to win 46-48 games? Yours truly said between 46-48. If things really fell well, they could perhaps 150. But did you expect the performances out of DeMar DeRozan and Ayo Dosunmu coming into the season, or were you surprised just like the rest of us?
So, Sidney, you're saying you picked the Bulls to win 48 games, 46-48?
Before the season started, yes.
Yeah,
wow.
I did. Right in that range. Yep.
Yeah.
You and I are going to Vegas. Wow, that's a pretty good call there, Sidney. You know what? I thought the ball club would be improved, but I didn't know where along the lines of W's. I'm not very good at that, so I got to tap into your brain. You got the mojo going, Sidney. But, you know, I think when Williams went down, I thought, oh, my gosh, like, you know, this is a serious injury here. He's going to miss months, not a month, not 6 to 8 weeks. We're talking like 4 months. And I'll tell you, there's a guy that really impressed me with his attitude and his heart, and that's Javonte Green. I listen. I get it. Javonte Green is a role player, but you know what? He accepts any role thrown his way. You want to start? You're going to start. You're going to play 35 minutes a night. Then all of a sudden, you know what? We're going with a different look, and you're coming off the bench, and you're going to be playing 12 minutes a night or 18 minutes a night. And he never complains. I love players like this. And all of a sudden, the ball club at the All-Star break is tied for first with Miami. Mm-hmm. And then they lose Lonzo. And all of a sudden, whether it's COVID, whether it's injuries, and, the truth of the matter is, Sydney and Lakeena, you've got to have your best players on the floor. Mm-hmm. If you don't have your best players on the floor, you're going to struggle. I mean, Steph Curry, look what happened to Golden State without him in the lineup a year. I mean, you got to have really good players to play. The availability of players in the league, to me, is if I'm a GM and I'm about to make a trade, I'm looking at how many games has this player played over the last 3 or 4 years. Because if this player isn't capable of playing at least 70 games, okay, then I've got to start saying, all right, like, where are we going with this? You've got to have your best players on the floor to have any continuity. So I think with the Bulls, if they can come into training camp with a healthy Lonzo, and, if Levine re-signs, but I trust this front office, I trust Billy Donovan, so I'm encouraged by what I've seen. But again, this is a very, very competitive industry. And in the offseason, Brooklyn's going to take a big picture with Kyrie Irving. Do we re-sign him? Do we do a sign and trade? Philly might be looking to make some moves. You've got a lot of things, moving parts here in the East.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about, Zach, all the crazy rumors, flying around, San Antonio, Dallas, Atlanta, Portland. I mean, just basically pretty much everywhere in the league so far for the most part. Do you think Zach resigns here?
You know what, Lakeena? Here's the story. He has earned the right to be a free agent. So I give him total respect. He played out the contract. He did a great job with the Bulls. And now it's up to him and his representative. Do I want Zach LaVine back? Absolutely. I mean, I love the guy. And I do love the guy. I mean, he's a good man in the community, does a lot of stuff people don't know about, and he just gets it done. And when healthy, he's a really, really, really good all-star player, as we know. He was playing really through sheer guts and heart with one leg, the last half of the season. I don't think there's any doubt about it. We didn't see that burst to the rim. So all these rumors, and you have to understand what you do, Lakeena and Sydney, these rumors are started by agents, by close friends who really have never met Zach LaVine, but they say, hey, I heard that this team is really going after him. And the next thing you know, it's on Hoops Hype, a real GM, or it's picked up by some blogger who's probably, downstairs in the basement saying, let's send Zach LaVine to the planet Pluto for, 100 stars to be named later. And they'll say, yes, Zach LaVine's going to Pluto. And I'm being comical about this, but it's a big game that's going on. I mean, I saw this when I was in Toronto and Vince Carter was a free agent. There were so many stories. Vince Carter's going to New York. Vince Carter's going to LA. Vince Carter. And I'm thinking, Vince Carter, we're going to have a team in Chapel Hill, and let's start a Vince Carter team in the NBA. I mean, come on. So he re-signs with the Raptors. Now, what happens from this point on, I have no idea. That's for people way above me to figure things out. But do I want Zach LaVine back? No question.
Another important role player that made a big impact on this Bulls team before his injuries. He tried in the playoffs, but he was still injured again. That was Alex Caruso. I remember watching him with the Lakers over the past couple of years, and we told people that his energy, especially from the defensive end, the Lakers really missed a lot this year, but Alex Caruso was one of them. And before Grayson Allen did that nasty injury to him back in January, you saw the impact of Alex Caruso on this Bulls team. Talk to us about Alex Caruso, both on and off the court.
Well, again, tough. Very, very dedicated to playing within himself. He knows his strengths. He knows what he can do, and he does it very well. Leadership qualities off the charts. Very well respected in the locker room. Good man. So, again, we're talking about a player, unfortunately, with Grayson Allen, and then he took that elbow, up at, on the sideline.
Mhm.
And so now, I'm hoping he's healthy. I haven't spoken to any of the Bulls since the elimination game. So, you got to have your best players on the floor. And I just hope, come October, he will be healthy and ready to roll, because the Bulls really, you saw how they galvanized defensively with him on the court.
How impressive. I know he kind of took sort of showed some rookie tendencies near the end, but how impressive was Ayo Dosunmu this season?
I love Ayo. I had never met him. I had seen him on television, but I had never met him, never went to a game where he played, whether it was in Champaign or in Evanston, whatever, when the Illini would play the Wildcats. So from an optic standpoint, Lakeena, this is the first time I saw him up close and personal. Mm-hmm. And what I saw was a hungry player, which I love. I saw a tenacious player. I saw a coachable player. And I saw a player with heart. And I saw a player get better. And a player who would do whatever it took for his team to be successful. And so, as we speak, he's probably in the gym. And, it wouldn't surprise me, because this kid wants to get better. And, there's elements of his game where he knows he has to improve, and he will improve, because that's the way his mindset is. He's never satisfied. He is a winning player, and he's a great young man.
Bulls radio voice Chuck Swirsky is kind enough to join us right here on Second City Sports, the Friday edition, live and in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid, Lakeena here with you. Chuck, I know the last couple of years for all of us has been challenging, dealing with COVID and everything else. Last year, you guys, you and Bill Wennington, returned to the United Center, but there were no fans until the end of the season a couple of years ago. This past year, fans were allowed back, and you guys were allowed to call the games from courtside finally. Talk to us about how that made you feel.
Well, Sydney, number one, I appreciate the safety and security of the United Center and the Bulls organization. I mean, COVID hit everyone, not only our ball club, but the mom and pop dry cleaners down the street and the hair salons and, the 7-Elevens. Everyone was affected. So I appreciate first responders and the medical field and people who roll up their sleeves each and every day to make sure that, we're healthy and we're okay. So having said that, in the United Center for home games, we were, during the COVID window, we were upstairs in the 200 level. So Stacy and Adam were calling a game at the 200 level, and we were just to the left of them, okay, without fans. And then the last 4 games of the season, the Bulls were eliminated, of course, but they allowed 300 fans, I think, 400 fans at most, to come in, friends of families, that sort of thing, to watch a game. That was it. For road games, we didn't travel, as you mentioned, Sydney. So the United Center and the Bulls put us in the basement of the Bulls concourse area, where we were probably, I would have to say, maybe 100 to 150 yards away from the locker room. So we were in this room, and our engineer, Rich Wyatt of 670 The Score, put together a phenomenal studio. Big screen TVs. He'd bring his own TVs from home just to, give us another monitor, so to speak. And we would take the NBA feed, the raw feed, and we would call the game off a monitor. And just like you're talking to me right now, and I'm talking to you off my computer screen, this was an enlarged screen. So, and which was great considering everything. The problem was for road games. Let's say the Bulls are in Oklahoma City, just to name a team. Well, we got the Oklahoma City video feed. So, of course, they're going to lock in on the Thunder. You know, if there's a discussion with the coach and the players, or if something happened, they're going to zero in on Oklahoma City. So if something happened where there was a technical foul on one of the Bulls, or somebody got nicked up, or there was a discussion during a timeout, we had no idea, none. And we were going off then my little laptop that was connected to an NBA secured media site where they would have like play-by-play and fouls and points. And so if someone did receive a technical foul, it would pop up on the screen. Now, it may take a minute or two, but it would eventually get there. So we had to face all these challenges. But in the big picture, Sydney, it's pale in comparison to what other people went through in COVID. So I want to make sure that we put things in perspective here, that, you know, it was not a life and death situation. We're calling a basketball game off a screen. That was it. A lot of people have much more important things going on in their world than whether or not you find out that Billy Donovan picked up a technical foul in the third quarter, to put things in perspective.
Absolutely. And Chuck, I know you're a big Bears fan as well. I wanted to talk a little bit about that. You know, of course, Matt Eberflus takes over as head coach. And of course, Ryan Poles is GM. You know, Justin Fields are doing like a lot of team bonding. They were at the Cubs. They were at Wrigley Field, I believe, earlier this week. So what's your perspective on the Bears, you know, this year as we go into this sort of rebuilding stage?
Yeah, well, you know what, Lakeena, I thought it was great. I saw those video clips with the Bears, and I mean, you know, Justin Fields cranking out a home run, and you know, just the amazing culture that's being developed. You see, I'm going to take off my hat. You see, I have no hair. That's because of the Bears. I'm going to blame the Bears in the last few years, because I pulled my hair out. I mean, I'm a fan. I love the Bears. I loved the Bears even before I came to Chicago, because when I was a kid growing up in Seattle, we would get Bears games in at 10 a.m. because Pacific time, 2 hours behind Central. So, you know, we would come home from church. It would be 10 a.m. And when I was a little boy, I would see these helmets with a C on the helmet. And I thought it stood for Charlie, which was my name, what people called me when I was a kid. I said, Mom, they named a team after me, Charlie, because the C emblem on the helmet, on the side of the helmet. And that's how I became a Bears fan. And then reality set in. My mom said, no, that's for the city of Chicago. That's a city in the Midwest. I don't want to burst your bubble here, but it's not, you know, the Charlies. So anyway, I'm a huge Bears fan, and I am so amped to see where this is going. They may have a few hiccups this year, obviously, but their cap room for 2023 is like crazy. It's unbelievable. And, I can't wait to see what they're going to do. I do think they've got a really good GM who came in from the Chiefs organization, and their defensive coordinator from Indianapolis, now the head coach, Eberflus. Am I pronouncing that right, Lakeena?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, good. Thank you. And so, let's give them a shot, because it has to be better than what we had in the previous regime.
Heading down the home stretch with Mr. Chuck Swirsky, the Bulls radio voice, right here on Sports Zone Chicago. We're live in 11 color on Second City Sports. Sid Lakeena here with you. Chuck, Steve Stone, the great baseball analyst, celebrated his 40th year in the game as far as a broadcaster. I was there at the Sox game on Tuesday. I saw your picture on Twitter, as people can follow you as CST Bulls, and you called a couple of games with Steve Stone a couple of years ago. Tell us, what was the experience like, and what did you learn from him?
Well, I learned a lot. I mean, Sydney, it was just amazing to sit, 6 inches apart from a Cy Young Award winner and a man who knows the game as well as anyone. I'm a big Steve Stone fan, huge Steve Stone fan as a person and then as an analyst. And wow, just how he could take a game and dissect it and break down where a pitcher is at on the mound, what's going through his mind, why he's throwing a certain pitch at a certain time, what a hitter is thinking during that period. I mean, it was an amazing, wonderful experience because I went into that assignment filling in for Hawk Harrelson, and I felt a lot of pressure doing so because Hawk is Hawk. And I am not Hawk. I'm just me. But, the good or bad. But just to sit next to Steve, I went in there, Sydney, like a blank canvas. And I let him paint the picture, not me. I didn't pitch Major League Baseball. He did. He knows what a pitcher is feeling with the bases loaded and a 3-1 count. I can't do that. I can say Brown on the mound with a 3-1 count to McGee, and that's one thing. But I can't tell you, all right, he's really struggling with his 4-seam fastball, and he's got to go back to the cutter, or he's got to go to a changeup. And that's the beauty of Steve Stone.
Well, right before we get to my next question for you, Chuck, we got our friend here from KXRB in Sioux Falls, our girl Christine Manika. Wanted to say hi because she's a big fan of yours.
Hey, Christine.
Hi, Chuck. We're Twitter buddies, actually, so it's nice to see you and virtually anyway.
Yes, thank you.
All right, now as for my question, you've done so much through your career, Chuck. You've called games, of course, with the Raptors and the Bulls and other sports as well. You've hosted shows for multiple stations. Do you have like a favorite, thing that you like to do, or are you just one of those folks that whatever they need me to do, I'll do it? Or do you have a favorite?
I mean, listen, I take on any assignment as a challenge, and I've been very blessed. There's no doubt about that, and I give all the glory to God, because he's put me in this position with some skills, and then it's up to me to take advantage of those skills. And that's how I approach things. But I would say of the games that I called, because I've seen a lot of things, but the games that I have personally broadcast, it had to be Kobe's 81-point game in 2006 in LA when I was calling the Raptor games. And I will never, ever forget that. And my former broadcast partner at Michigan, Rob Pelinka, who's now the GM of the Lakers, represented Kobe, as you know. And so I met Kobe after the game, just briefly, congratulated him. And then the following year, when the Raptors went to LA, on our pregame show, we had a chance to sit down and talk with him before the game, which is usually not happening because, you don't get a player before the game. These teams are very reluctant to make players available, especially superstar players. But because of my association with Rob, and that started like an opportunity that when I saw Kobe, when he played the Raptors or played the Bulls, I would run into him for just a couple of minutes. He was an unbelievable person in terms of not only remembering names, but also, just when he spoke to you, Lakeena, he looked at you in the eyes. He wasn't going around Sydney and Christine saying, who's the other person that's coming into the room? Oh, yeah. And do that. When he spoke to you, and he felt that you were like the biggest person in the room. So when he had the 81-point game, could it happen again? Sure. But I do think that calling that game, I still have the box score. I still have the tape. And what's most important, I still have the memories in my heart.
Chuck, is speaking of social media, Christine brought up you guys being social media buddies. I wanted to bring it. I know Christine's going to kill me for this, no pun intended, but I'm not saying it's just because, but I like following you on social media, Chuck, because after every Bulls win, you have this victory dance. Where did that come from? How did it get started? And I hope you keep it going.
Yeah, there it is.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Here's what happened. So we're in the bunker in the United Center, during COVID. And like 2 years ago, the Bulls weren't really good. I mean, weren't very good, as you know. And this was the first year where AK and Mark could really like ascertain where they're at and what's happening. And so after one game, the Bulls won. And like we were in a bad stretch of games and the Bulls won. So after the game, like, I stood up, I started dancing, and our engineer, Rich Wyatt, taped it. And he goes, "This is great. I'm going to put it online." I said, "What?" And so I said, "Go ahead, whatever." And it just went viral. And people picked it up. And so after every game, I want to make sure that people understand this. Number one, this is about jubilation and celebration. I am not, this is not a directive in any way whatsoever in a negative manner at the opposing team. Okay. It's not personal. So when the Bulls win a game, I'm not dancing to destroy anybody or anything or the image of what the opposing team just went through. So I hope people understand that this is just me having fun. The Bulls won, and that's it. It's a game. I leave it in the arena afterwards, but right after the game, when the Bulls win, I want to, just let it all hang out and say, "Hey, great job." Boom. We turn the page. We put it up on social media. That's it. I'm not trying to disparage anybody.
Just don't hurt yourself. I've seen a couple times where you hurt yourself. You hurt yourself. So it's just hilarious. Last question for me. What do you think the Bulls' ceiling is these next few years? Because I feel like I know people say, whether they, if there are going to be changes made, during the offseason. I know Vooch is, the under impression that he's going to stay. So do you think they can win a championship, or at least perhaps maybe contend for a championship these next few years?
Well, I think these are building blocks. It's going to be interesting to see, the Bulls have limited cap room. So, I mean, this is going to be a very intriguing offseason to see the add-ons, or are they going to make a trade? I have no idea. But I at least I can say this, Lakeena, they've got a plan, and they're going to stick with this plan. And they have some really, really good people in the front office, whether it's Arturas, whether it's Mark, whether it's JJ Polk. They've got people who know what they're doing, okay? And they're going to think outside the box. They're going to be aggressive, but they also are going to use this. And this is not, they don't want a Band-Aid effect where, okay, we're going to bring in this player and we're going to be good for a year or two, but then we're going to go down and then we're going to rebuild. I don't sense that this is not what they're all about. They want to sustain not only winning basketball, but they want to win a championship. Because, Lakeena, it's one thing to say, well, we're going to be competitive. Well, okay, everyone says that, all 30 teams. But I know Michael Reinsdorf wants to win a title. This is his goal. His goal isn't, well, we won 45 games and let's get fired up and all that. He wants to win a title. And to me, that's what's important. I really think it burns inside of him to win a championship. And that is his goal. And I think we're going to get it done.
Last question from me, Chuck. Of course, people want to do what you do at the highest level, calling an NBA game at a professional level. People want to do what we do as far as radio shows and podcasts and things along that nature. And we get advice from people all the time on how do you go about it? What's your advice? I wanted to ask you, for the people that want to do what you do and or do what we do, what's the one piece of advice you give people starting on their journey throughout the sports broadcasting industry?
Okay. That's a good question. So Sydney, Lakeena, and Christine, here's what I'm going to offer everyone. Be you. Just be you. And, we pick little pieces here and there of other people. I mean, that's the commonality of our business. We hear someone, we pick up a phrase, whatever. I get that. But at the end of the day, Sydney is Sydney. Christine is Christine. Lakeena is Lakeena. And you have a personality. You have your identity. And your identity is not in another person. Your identity is yourself. And you need to feel comfortable within the framework of who you are with your mind, body, and soul. So when you go out and decide to sign up for this beautiful business, a challenging one, but a beautiful business of communication or behind the scenes, the truth of the matter is that we are all created uniquely, and take advantage of your gifts. Your gift could be a play-by-play. Your gift could be somebody that is a writer. Your gift could be somebody that's handling the technical aspects of a show or putting a show together, or having an opportunity to do talk shows. Whatever the case may be, take your skills and polish them. Polish the gifts that you've been given. Work on the things and the challenges that are presented in front of you, and never, ever take anything for granted. I'm going to leave you with a quote. And if there's one thing that I took from this was, and I remind myself constantly every day of this quote. So I'm at a blues club in Columbus, Ohio, and I'm in my early 20s. And I'm sitting with some friends of mine, and one of the guys at the table knew the blues singer. The first set ends, okay? The singer comes over at the end of the first set for about a 10, 15-minute intermission, walks to the table, sits down, looking at us, and he introduced himself. I introduced myself. I was doing sports in Columbus, Ohio at the time, and he said, "Chuck, let me give you some advice." I said, "What's that?" He said, "You better take care of your homework, because if you don't, somebody will." And there was silence. And I said, "I'm sorry?" And he goes, "I'm going to tell you one more time. You better take care of your homework, because if you don't, somebody will." Mm-hmm. That resonated in my brain. And that was decades ago. And I still remember, I remember the night, I remember the setting, I remember where he sat, I remember everything, because that was so impactful and a bedrock of where I needed to be in my mind every single day. Because listen, this is a tough world. It's competitive. I don't care if it's sports broadcasting, retail work. If you want to be a lawyer or a teacher, you got to get after it. And no one will get after it the way you can. You could have all the advice in the world. You could have all the people coming at you with things, talking in your ear. But at the end of the day, when you look at that mirror, you know whether or not you're busting your tail, or whether or not you're going through the motions. And if you're going through the motions, you better take a long, hard look in that mirror and find out why. And if you don't have passion, find out what is your passion, and then take the most of what you can give to that passion, and you will prosper. If you want to be a school teacher, be the best school teacher. If you want to be a lawyer, be the best lawyer. If you want to be a social worker, then show up and be the best social worker for families and kids each and every day. Whatever your passion, it will help. But at the end of the day, this is on you and this is on me. And that's why when Dick Mackey said, you better take care of your homework, because if you don't, somebody will. There are people right now, like in the gym working in basketball, where some people are on, a boat, having a margarita, while other guys are in the lab getting better. And I'm not saying you shouldn't take time to relax, because you should, and recharge the batteries. But at the end of the day, the only way we're going to get better is to work on your craft. So anyway, I appreciate the time. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chuck Swirsky. He's the Bulls radio voice for 670 Score. He does a great job with Bill Winnington. You can catch him starting next season on 670 The Score in the Odyssey app. Mr. Swirsky, thank you so much for taking time on your busy schedule to join us today. Great advice. Continue the great work and continue that great energy. And let's do this again soon down the road, okay?
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chuck.
Thank you. Take care.
And And that was Chuck Swirsky. He's one of
Let's
those
give him a round
folks-
of applause, Lakeena.
Yeah, I mean,
we got to do it. We got to do it.
Yeah, I mean, he's one of those guys. You could listen to him all day. I mean, he can,
Yes.
great stories, great moments, just amazing. So we're gonna do this kind of like a rapid fire, guys. We only got a few minutes left to listen to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. Lakeena McGee, Cindy Brown, and our girl KXRB's Christine Manika joining us. For the rest of the show. So I guess we'll do hockey first. I know Christine's not a big fan of hockey, but we'll do it like real quick. The Avs are back in the Stanley Cup for the first time since 2001. Now they're going to be waiting a little bit for their opponent. Either I can't talk for some reason. Either Tampa Bay or the Rangers. Tampa has now got the 3-2 lead. Real quick, Sid, what are your thoughts on who do you think will be get that second spot in the Stanley Cup final?
My pick of the Rangers are in trouble. This doesn't make any sense. They won the first 2 games down in Tampa. And of course, Tampa Bay has won the last 3 games. Don't fight Steven Stamkos at it, and then you might just give Tampa Bay an extra edge for tomorrow night.
Okay.
Rangers, come on. First of all, you got to come out, set the tone early, score the first couple of goals of the game, unlike Edmonton their last 2 games before they lost to Colorado. New York, they just got to be aggressive. You can't just have a lead and sit back or think you just do something stupid to come back. That's not their game. They've been getting some very good goaltending. We talked about it through all the playoffs, Lakeena. But for the Rangers, you got to put the pucks in back of the net. You set the tone. You set the tone early. That's what they need to do tomorrow night in Game 6 to keep their season alive.
Yeah, the Lightning have won 3 straight after falling behind 2-0 in the Eastern after falling 2-0. So it's crazy. They're now 1 win away from overcoming that deficit in the best of 7 series for the second time in franchise history. You go all the way back to 0-3, I should say, in the Caps. So yeah, well, we should see what happens tomorrow because they the Rangers better get it together, try to jump on them early. Of course, the experience is what's kind of propelling the Lightning so far. So they might reach out for that tomorrow.
Real quick before we move on, Lakeena, one quick hockey note. I saw this morning. The NHL's Western Conference Finals that aired on TNT between Colorado and Edmonton, the highest rated Western Conference Finals series since 2015. We all know who played in that series.
Yes. And, oh my God, right? I mean,
the Blackhawks in Anaheim. That's of course that series went 7 games on their way to their 3rd Stanley Cup of that decade. I still remember Game 2 like it was yesterday. The Andrew Shaw soccer goal, which was
the soccer kick. Darn it didn't count either. Darn.
Yeah, I know.
Side note with the Rangers, though, Jimmy Fallon was having fun last night. He was enjoying a hot dog or 2, so can't all be that bad, right?
Right, and it's been 12 years since the first one they won. The anniversary of Game 6 against the Flyers was yesterday.
Yeah, I watched it yesterday.
Jesus. God.
Do you remember where you were, Christine Lakeena? When the Hawks won their first cup.
Yeah, I was sitting at home and I was like, I had the computer in the background, so I was wondering, okay, are they going to do it? Are they going to do it? And when Kane put the puck in the nets, I was like, wait, like everyone else was like, what happened? And then he started celebrating, and Sharpie was there, and I think Burr's out there too, and Shaw was there too. Everyone started celebrating. We were like, huh? And then like, oh, okay, we guess. And Doc Emmerich, love him. He still to this day says that he regrets not being able to kind of call that right because again, nobody knew where the puck was, and I don't think they found the puck yet either.
I don't think they found it either.
What about you, Christine? Where were you? I'm
about to flip my computer screen over to my mom because she's the one just telling me all this. I'm like, I got it. But I was a 2010 graduating grade school, believe it or not. And she thinks I went to the parade, but I didn't go to the parade. My dad went to the parade. He was there for all the parades. He got me a shirt from the parade, but I have not been to any of the 3 parades, unfortunately, during that time.
Great story. So yeah, the 12-year anniversary of the Blackhawks was yesterday. Of course, yours truly was at work, and then I caught the game on the radio on the way home. And then, thank goodness, back then, Lakeena, this as well as I do. It had to be I transferred to the DVD on the DVD disc later. But remember VCRs?
Yes.
I had to record it. So I said, let me record it a little bit over just in case it goes to the overtime. Thank goodness I did. Yeah. What was that, Christine?
Then rewind the tape.
Yeah.
Yes, right.
Yeah, and pause when the commercials came on. You're a very smart young lady. But I recorded the game. Of course, I made those DVDs to everybody that liked hockey. It's like, oh, Sid could get you the game. I was making them like nobody's business. But yeah, I called all the time when I got home and listened to the game on the radio. It was a very awesome moment. Of course, I don't know if I told you guys this story. I'll make it quick. I know we running up against it, but during that year, early in the playoffs, they had that first round series against Nashville, which they almost lost.
Yes.
Yours truly was there for Game 5 of that Nashville series, Saturday afternoon, April 24th, Section 327, Row 5, C5. Of course, we all know what happened. Kane tied the game late, and then, of course, Mario Hossa had to command that dumb penalty at the end of regulation.
Yeah.
10 seconds later, in overtime, coming out that penalty box, boom, hit the game winner, and the place went nuts. That's the best hockey game I've ever went to, period.
Well, yeah, watching it at home, I remember when that happened, literally like just seconds out of Hossa, came out of that penalty box. He scored that game winner to send the Hawks advancing. So yeah, just great move. I know some would say it kind of slight a little bit with all this other that's gone on off the ice, but still, look, you have the memories. So let's just cherish these, because it might be a while before we'll have those. Again. So let's cherish those memories. Now, HBO is going to air a short doc this fall on about former Knicks cold hero Jeremy Lin. 38 at the Garden. This is according to our buddies at All For Announced. They just made this announcement a couple of days ago. It's going to be a few of the documentaries going to be coming out. It's going to, talk about Lynn's, sort of, reach, to the stars, that great season that he had. And, just season during the 2011-2012 season, and, his story on how he was crashing at his sister's couch. Now he became this cold figure, but kind of, have fallen off a little bit, and we'll see what he's doing now. So this should be a pretty cool doc. That's going to air on HBO sometime in the fall. Although nothing official, the date hasn't been officially announced yet, but they are going to show it in the fall. Just a plethora of, talking about his career at Long Beach State and injury and such and everything else. So, country as they usually do on HBO.
Yeah, we're looking forward to that documentary. Of course, remember that 2012 season was the short 66-game lockout season. Of course, the Knicks suffered injuries throughout that early part of that season with Amari Stoudemire and Carmelo Anthony. And Jeremy Lin was not only a story in New York, he was his whole story in the NBA, because no one of his caliber did what he did. The reason why he got all that attention, because he was on the biggest stage in the biggest market in the country, and actually got helped to get the Knicks back into the playoffs, in which they did. Of course, they lost to the eventual champion Heat in that first round series, but it was a great story for about a month and a half there. Of course, when Amari Stoudemire and Carmelo Anthony came back, the Knicks fell back into reality.
Yeah. What else? Like Asian Americans too, of course. This past month, Asian Pacific Islander Heritage Month. I know he's been making the rounds and doing interviews. So we'll see how this goes. But yeah, it should be a good one. 38 at the Garden, that'll air sometime in the fall. Nothing announced. The date has not been announced yet, but I'm sure probably by September, October.
Yeah. All right, Christine. Anything else that's on your mind, Chuck Swirsky, or anything else before we disperse?
Anything else that's on my mind? Oh, good gosh. I don't think. No, I think I'm good.
Well, we want to give a shout out to the Oklahoma women's softball team. They win their sixth national title and their second overall. They beat their rival Texas, basically just hammering them. They were dominant. They were the number one overall seed in the Women's College World Series. And, just in dominating fashion. I think they only had like 5 losses, I think, this season, if I'm not mistaken, which is probably one of the all-time greats. Just a great accomplishment and such. And, also you got the men's baseball. They're doing super regionals right now. So just a great springtime, and also too. Let's see here. Let me see if I can. There was some news that came out of it involving college football early this morning. Cincinnati, Houston, BYU, and I think there was another team. I forgot. I gotta look that up right quick. Oh, and UCF are going to be joining the Big 12 starting next summer.
Okay.
Interesting.
Yeah.
As the world turns in college sports.
Yeah.
Conference turns, I guess. So, so interesting. Also, too, Jack Del Rio got fined $100,000 for the comments he made about. We won't really go too deep into it, but the Ron Rivera, the the Crusaders head coach just made the announcement on Twitter. They just announced it on their feed. I think that's about it. I'm trying to see if there's like anything that we did not get to. That's about. Like that, Tiger's now a billionaire. Joining MJ and LeBron. So even despite him not playing much, he still commands with all the businesses he's got. The wins and the tours and such. So just an amazing accomplishment.
Yeah, Tiger's going to be fine, with all the merchandise, and I'm sure he's going to do speaking engagements. His price tags will go up that much more.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So real quick, what are your predictions for tonight's game? Christine, I'll start with you in the NBA Finals.
Celtics, after their performance on Wednesday on their home court, I expect nothing less tonight from them.
I got GSW. I told you, Lakeena, there is going to be a split, and Boston is nothing as we know as of this broadcast that's going to change my mind. So I'm going with GSW.
I'm going. Yeah, I'm with you, Sid. I just think, look, this thing's going to go 7. I've got Warriors in 7. I just don't see. It's going to be a 2-1-1. 1 after this, so it's not 2-3-2 like it's been in recent years. So it'll be interesting to see what happens tonight. But look, everybody's got to step up. Draymond, everybody has to step up. So we'll see what happens there. Now, with that said, you can follow me at Keena McGee on the Twitter and at Keena_McGee on the IG.
You can follow yours truly, Sydney Brown, on the Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, at SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. Once again, that's SIDKID80. You can get that Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps. Make sure you follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media outlets. That's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Make sure you subscribe to our podcast at War or Anchor. We're available on all podcast platforms, including the iHeartRadio app. And make sure you follow War Media at WARR Media on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
Christine, where can the lovely people follow you?
They can follow me on Twitter at Manika_KXRB.
And we'd like to thank Chuck Swirsky, the Chicago Bulls radio voice, for joining us here today for the last half of the show. Great job, Mrs. Swirsky. Keep up the great work. We'll definitely have you back on again in the near future.
Also, too, shout out to Jocelyn Alo. That's the name I was looking up for. Of course, Oklahoma softball grad. She goes out two-time national champion and a 2-time collegiate player of the year. So just a great accomplishment to a great career. Like I said, also you got the college baseball. They're going to super regionals. They're down to the Sweet 16, if you will. You can catch those games on the ESPN Failure Networks and also the SEC Network as well. So make sure you guys check that out for all you college baseball fans. Of course, you got baseball, the NBA Finals. Of course, we'll see if Tampa can punch their ticket back to the Stanley Cup Final as well. So much. You got the Ethiopia too for all you golf fans. So much going on this weekend. So for Sid and Christine, I'm Lakeena. If you're not gonna get vaccinated, wear your mask, wash your hands, and be good to each other. This has been Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago, and we'll see you Monday.
Till then, go Sox. Holla!